Yes, people, welcome back to GNA TV. I hope yous are all well. I'm your host, Jem. Let's cue the intro.
How I'm here, and it's you that I want to need. Feel your heartbeat. Feel somewhere you're looking good. Feel your heartbeat. Feel somewhere you're looking good.
Yes, people, welcome back. I hope yous are all well. Welcome to the first ever GNA TV Guest Show. We're going to be trying to do this once a week, maybe once a couple of weeks. We're going to be bringing in people that are influencers, people that have experience and knowledge in the football industry. And we're going to be bringing them in on sort of every, maybe once a month basis. Looking forward to it. Our first ever guest is a Liverpool fan. I'm going to learn a lot. To be honest, I don't know much about it myself, so I'm interested to really get into this guy. He sounds like a very knowledgeable guy, and it'd be good to get him on. So here he is. Steve, how you doing, my man? You all right?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on. Hello to everybody that's sort of tuning in and having a listen. Good to be here. Good to be the first guest. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for being here, mate. Thank you for being here. What we'll do is we'll start off with just learning a bit about yourself. Who are you? What are you about? And yeah, tell us about you, really.
Yeah, well, football fan for longer than I care to remember, sort of into decades now. I'm a massive Liverpool fan. Seen it all. Seen the good times in the 70s and 80s, in the bad times, sort of in the noughties, and obviously enjoying what we're doing at the moment. This season's been a bit difficult, but still enjoying it. Ex sort of semi-pro footballer and semi-pro manager, managed in the FA Cup. So football runs deep in me, always will do. And when it's like that, when you're that passionate about it, you just soak it all up, don't you really? So got a fair bit of knowledge regards Liverpool in terms of memories and experiences, and happy to share them, and really enjoy coming on shows like yours. Sharing my thoughts with people and debating conversation and raising points for people to talk about before, during, and after, really. So, yeah, all good. And as I said before, thanks for having me on.
No worries, and we appreciate you coming on as well. People, get your questions in for Steve as well. Yeah, as we go along, what we'll do is I'm going to be asking him. We're going to discuss a certain amount of things to do with his football club, which is Liverpool. What we'll do, I'm just literally writing in the chat now. Before we move forward, please smash the like button. If you're new here, please subscribe as well. We're nearly at our 1,000 mark, which will allow us to be a monetized channel. And we appreciate the support that we've had so far up to now in such a short space of time as well. So, yeah, we appreciate it. We've actually got one question already for you, Steve. It says, Steve, what do you think of Ole Gunnar as a coach?
That's a good question. I like the way he comes across with the media. I think he's quite a pragmatic guy. We certainly need that with the personality he's got at the football club. Has he the skills to take Manchester United to where they need to get to? Of that, I'm not convinced. Everybody in every facet and every walk of life has a ceiling of where their competency is getting to. And I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer may well have found his. It frightens a lot of us rival fans that if they've got a manager in there, when I say a proper manager in there, with the ability to make Manchester United tactically better and certainly play with more of a game plan, with the players and spine on that side they've got available to them, Manchester United could be challengers every year. You can't ignore some of the quality in that side. I just don't think he knows how to get the best out of them, and his coaching staff don't either. So long may that continue as a Liverpool fan, that's for sure.
All right, we'll do one more and then we'll delve into things. Velshun's a Liverpool fan as well. He says, who's your all-time Liverpool 11?
Wow, I can do that quite quickly because we've been there many, many times. Yeah. So Ray Clements is the greatest Liverpool goalkeeper of all time. Alisson may well challenge that in years to come. We'll have that conversation in 5 years, hopefully with a few more medals on the table. Right back would be Phil Neal, 4 Champions League medals and 9 league titles, the most decorated Liverpool player of all time. Again, Trent will come into that conversation in years to come. Left back would be Alan Kennedy, 2 Champions League winning goals and a long career winning many, many medals. Back to centre halves would be Alan Hansen and Virgil van Dijk. That's really quite easy. Across the midfield, your centre midfield pairing would be Graham Souness and Steven Gerrard, which would be absolutely ridiculous. On the right side of midfield, I would go with Steve Highway because of the energy and because of what he gives the side, and that's really digging deep into the archives. On the left-hand side would be John Barnes, and up front would be Dalglish and Rush. That would be pretty formidable 11, to be fair.
That's a pretty old school team, isn't it? When you think about the names that you've rang out there, Ian Rush, great players, really, absolutely. What about? I mean, what's your views on Xabi Alonso? Because I know a lot of Liverpool fans that we have on here that talk about him quite highly. Do you think he's a good player?
Yeah, he would be close to getting in there. I remember listening to, and it's very interesting to say that, I remember listening to Ray Wilkins being interviewed, and he said when Chelsea came to Liverpool, yes, you have to factor for Torres, and yes, you have to factor for Steven Gerrard, but the player you have to get your game built around is to stop Xabi Alonso running the game. He could take 5 of your players out with one pass because he didn't need a touch. He would always be aware where people were, and he could move it 40, 50, 60 yards in one instant. So Xabi Alonso was amazing. What was difficult as a Liverpool fan is when he fell out with the club, in particular, Rafa Benitez. I'd say the last 6 or 7 months of his career was very hit and miss. He didn't reach the heights that he wanted to or he was capable of. And because of the relationship he had with Benitez and Ayestaran, Ayestaran was his go-to. Benitez was a problem. The move to Real Madrid was always going to happen. Sadly, broke my heart. That's one of the few times a footballer leaving the club breaks your heart.
Yeah, no, we've all been there. Trust me. As a Chelsea fan, there's been players in the past that have left us, and I'm just like, oh no, it hurts. It hurts a bit. It hurts in there. But Alex, we're gonna get back to this question. Don't worry. It's something that one of the topics we're actually going to delve into. But let's talk about Liverpool overall this season. Obviously, you are the champions. You're the defending champions as well. How do you feel you've performed so far with everything that's going on?
It's been disappointing. I think every Liverpool fan would share that opinion and say that. When we finished second by a point and went again the next season, what we did is we pushed our back line right up to the halfway line and used VAR to our advantage to stop the long ball in behind, hopefully catch people offside. What that allowed us to do is to dictate the game and play football solely in the opposition's half. Now, our system's very, very rigid, and it needs the exact right personnel in each of the positions. So when you lose Virgil van Dijk, who's not just a centre-back, he's a footballer, let's be fair, he's a footballer. And then you lose Joe Gomez, and you start putting players in there who can't do what they do. We've not been able to play with a system since we lost Joe Gomez. Because we've been using arguably one of our most effective centre midfielders as a centre-back. So the knock-on effect around the rest of the team is that you can't press and you can't counter-press because you don't have the personnel to do it. So much like I alluded to before with Manchester United, I don't see Liverpool playing with a specific game plan at the moment. I don't think our system's working. I think we're playing off-the-cuff football, which quite a lot of the sides are doing at the moment this season, it seems. So it's been disappointing. Listen, we can all say injuries have played a factor, and of course they have, but you can't use that as the sole and only reason. There's a lot of mental fatigue in football at the moment, and mental fatigue is harder to overcome than physical fatigue because you can't tell your body to do what it needs to do because your mind's not working properly. So we've had 3 seasons where those players have been flat out, and the standard they've been playing at absolutely ridiculous, and it's dropped off. We didn't learn from Manchester City last season because what's happened to Liverpool this season happened to Manchester City last season. At some point, mental fatigue catches up with you. You just physically can't do the things that you want to do because your brain and your body are not in sync. So, been a really, really tough season. The plan always was, for me, was to stay in touch, keep in touch, stay there and thereabouts, start getting players back, push on and see if we can retain our title. What has happened is, in the last 6 or 7 games, Manchester City have struck on a ridiculously rich vein of form, conceding next to no goals and putting teams away and winning games. So that's what's happened. It's been disappointing. It's not a great defence of our title, not what we would have planned for. But I think the count is something like Liverpool players have missed over 100 games through injury this season. It is a factor, but it's not the only reason.
Yeah, I hear you completely on that. And one of the things that I feel like most Liverpool fans have been saying, you picked up on it a lot, is the injury side of things and the loss of Thiago. Obviously, Thiago's been playing the last couple of games, and I feel like, from what I've seen of Liverpool so far, I feel like you got to look at the manager a little bit in Klopp as well, but I look at it as that you only seem to play one sort of style of football at the moment. He doesn't seem to have a plan B. And do you feel that this style of football's or the system of style football that you're playing is getting the best out of the likes of someone like a Thiago, or do you think as Klopp should be looking at different styles to get the best out of players when one's not working, for example?
Yeah, good question. I think if you're playing centre midfielders at centre back, your number 6 role becomes a difficult position because they have to be very defensive minded. I'm not entirely sure that's how you get the best out of Thiago. When we speak with my friends about Liverpool, what we'd like to see Thiago do is push 15, 20 yards further forward so he can sit in the hole in front of a low block. Because you've seen it and I've seen it and everybody's seen it. We recycle the ball to Robertson and Trent and they just fire balls into the defender's legs. It isn't working. When we've got everybody available, Trent is hitting balls into Salah from 30 yards deeper in his own position. So Salah's got more space, more opportunity to work with it. And that works. And that's because it's part of the system. At the moment, we're still trying to play that football. I wouldn't say we've been figured out because our game plan isn't working, but we'd have to come up with a plan B for the low block. Everybody does it. It's not great defending. It's mass defending. When you sit 10 players in the edge of the box, that's not great defending. That, for me, is mass defending, and you do it against a team like Liverpool. You can't do it against City because De Bruyne, when he's fit, Silva, Gundogan, Foden will rip you to bits by finding angles and creating short triangles and ask questions of you for 90 minutes because they sit in your half and they play their football. Liverpool is very different. And at the moment, we're struggling to break that down. So with the skills that he's got and the ability he's got, push him 20 yards further forward, sit him in behind the front three, and let's see what he can do because he's certainly got a passing range to trouble and open up anybody. I just think he's trying to hurt teams from a position which is too deep.
Do you still think Liverpool? Are you still confident that Liverpool can retain their title, or do you think it's too far fetched? And do you feel like Man City? Because looking at Man City at the moment, I feel like the beast has woken up. They've won the last 13 games in a row, and usually when they do that, it's usually a sign that they're going to continue with it. I can't really stress how important this game is today, really, because I feel like Liverpool more so than Man City would probably need to go out and win this game. Do you feel like Liverpool, if they can get a result today, are still going to be, in for a chance to retain their title?
Well, if we don't get a result today and we were to see City come away with the 3 points, from Liverpool's point of view, for me, it's over. You never say never. Pep Guardiola said himself in a press conference over the weekend, 6 games ago, no one was looking at Manchester City as potential title winners. So you string a link of results together, win 5 or 6 games on the bounce, and suddenly you're in the running. It's not beyond Liverpool to recover this ground. They do need to win today. If they win today, I'm not sure you could say it puts self-doubt in Manchester City's mind, because when you're in the form they're in and you're playing with the confidence they've got, and you go to Anfield where until the last 2 games nobody ever gets anything.
Yeah.
Would that be a big enough message of negativity to unsettle Man City to the point where we catch them?
Yeah.
This is our season in terms of the league, and any chance of retaining it going to unfold in 90 minutes in front of us. We have to start fast, we have to be on the front foot, we have to play with tempo, and we have to dictate the game, because if you allow Manchester City to dictate the game, usually they beat you. So, and we have a very good record against Man United, so I would expect Liverpool to be doing the things that they've done over the years at Anfield against Manchester City that have seen us open them up to score 2, 3, sometimes even 4 goals in the game. We definitely have the skills to unsettle them. We definitely have the ability and the players to beat them.
Yeah.
We need to come into this game and put the last result completely out of our minds, because if that's in anybody's mind going into today, it's not a great place to start. This is it. This is our pivotal moment in our season from the league point of view. This is the biggest game of the season in the Premier League. This will tell us a lot. This will tell us whether Man City are going to win it by 15 points, quite capable of doing, or Liverpool are going to pull them back a little bit, and then 2 or 3 sides in and around the top have got something to fight for. But you're right, this is a huge, huge game, but we need to win more than they do. We need to win this more than they do.
Yeah. Question for you. Velvishan, the Liverpool fan, says, should Klopp try and experiment Trent in midfield? Try something different, like how Kimmich is at Bayern. Do you see Trent as more of a versatile player, or do you think he's just sort of a one-style play sort of player?
You can see his ability, but he'll said himself he likes playing where he plays, and the reason why is when he receives the ball, there's nobody behind him, so there's no pressure from behind him. No one's going to close him down and take the ball off him. So it gives him the time and space to look up and use his skill set, his passing and his ability and his vision. At some point in the future, maybe we'll have a look at it. no rush to do it. I think more importantly is we need to find a way to open up teams with a low block. And to some degree today, Manchester City will sit in deep certainly when under pressure. They've got a very cohesive defensive unit at the moment that's operating really well. And they'll be confident they can deal with what we have to offer. We need to play to our strengths. And I don't think putting Trent in midfield between now and the end of the season really is an option, because that requires a complete change in our system. That requires everybody learning to do something different. And you kind of can't do that with 40% of the season left to go. It's too big a risk.
I hear you. I definitely hear you on that. People, please smash that like button. There's nearly 20 of you here with us as well. We appreciate your support as always as a channel. We're going to touch on FSG very soon. Actually, it's one of actually probably the next topic that I'm actually going to jump on. Actually, there's a lot of Liverpool fans that it seems to be a bit of a divided opinion on FSG at the moment. There's a lot of Liverpool fans that want them out. And as you know yourself, I feel like it's the same issue that Man United have got with the Glazers, and the Arsenal fans have got with the Cronkies. You can't force boards out. What are your view on your board as well? Do you blame them for? I'm going to talk about sort of the beginning of the season, because when you're a champion, when you're champions and you win, like you did very convincingly, one of the things I always think which makes you a better team and actually allows you to achieve and retain the title is by strengthening your squads. I think what happens is after a while, you like you said, you kind of get sussed out a little bit. And I feel like with FSG, they haven't really done that, haven't backed you or backed Klopp in that way. What are your thoughts on the board at Liverpool?
Obviously, we're grateful for when they bought the club, the position we were in to where we are now in terms of ground development, player development, expansion of Anfield, Kirby, be it the training ground being made what it is. We're very grateful for that. We're a football club with the only debt we've got is an internal debt where we develop the training ground between Liverpool Football Club and FSG Holdings. So not quite the same as Manchester United, where there's 800 million to £1 billion worth of debt sitting in the club. So we're grateful for that. I think the thing with FSG is recently went on a podcast with a journalist who purely looks after Liverpool Football Club. It was Jurgen Klopp's decision not to buy a centre-half in the summer. Okay. He decided that Fabinho would be our fourth choice following on from Van Dijk, Gomez and Matip. He could never have seen what was going to come. None of us could. So when we say the board didn't back the club, they went and bought Jota for 40 million. But in this current financial market, that's a statement. And he's certainly at the ground running, shame about his injury. And obviously we signed Thiago as well. It's not Championship manager. It's not a situation where you need to go and spend £200 million for 5 players. No disrespect, but Frank Lampard would tell you that doesn't always work. You can buy a good player, right? It doesn't always gel. You should strengthen from a position of strength. Completely agree. Over the years, we've done that when we've been in a strong position. And Manchester United did that when they've been in a strong position. So, looking at the squad, if you add Thiago and Jota to a fully fit squad, you could argue that you did strengthen that squad. We've been caught out because we let Lovren go and we never replaced him. And with all due respect, Nat Phillips and Reece Williams have done a great job when they've came in, but they're not Premier League standard. And over a season, they'll get found out, and they have been. So it's difficult. The club's worth now as much as it's ever going to be worth. Not suddenly going to find another £1 billion somewhere. The only person that would buy it would be someone like Manchester City's owner that wants a rich man that they could throw money at. Yeah. So recently, Red Bull looked to invest some money in the FSG group. It's about £500 million, but it was more centred around the baseball side of the business, and that collapsed. So they are looking for investors to get involved with FSG. They are looking for people to come in and become shareholders. Shareholders is a bit of a worry. The Arsenal model with Kroenke and the guys at Everton now and one or two others proves to be problematic. We don't want that at Liverpool. If they sell to a sheikh or an oligarch like Abramovich, then so be it. There's nothing I can do about that. There's nothing the fans can do about that. It's the world we have to live in, and we have to accept it. I think overall, 30 years to wait for a title, the infrastructure of the club, the investment in the club, the investment more in the manager than anything. You could say FSG has done a good job. Where we have been let down, it's not good business to buy 2 centre-backs, particularly of Kabak's standard, who's a decent player, we think he's going to be something, and the lad from Preston on the last day of the transfer window, then you don't use them, then your centre-back goes down at half-time with an ankle injury and you lose the game. That's smacks to me like too little too late. If we'd signed centre-backs at the start of the transfer window, we'd have been using them by the time the Brighton game came around. So it's kind of a smokescreen to sign players that late in the day, albeit for good money. That's what the fans seem to centre around and be pleased with. But to be honest with you, for me, it was too little too late. And Matip's injury at half-time and the way that we had to reorganise against Brighton and never really looked like we were going to score. That's not helpful. Those players should have been in the club early on in January. It'll take 2 weeks to acclimatise and playing in those games. So there's good and bad in all of our owners. For the most part, I think Liverpool fans should be happy with FSG. There has been times when you have to speculate to accumulate. January transfer window, I feel they let the manager down a little bit.
Yeah, I hear you. Definitely hear you on that. Chris Welsh, who's a Liverpool fan, says, do you think we need to change the system from a 4-3-3 to a 4-2-3-1?
I don't like the 4-2-3-1.
No.
I think when you play a 4-2-3-1, you're putting somebody in the space that Bobby wants to play in, Bobby Firmino, because he likes to operate sort of a nucleus of around 30 yards around the edge of the box. You're pushing somebody too close. I actually would like to see Liverpool try with 3 centre-half, 2 wing-backs, a holding midfielder, and then a bit more fluidity up front. I think with Kabak, Gomez, Van Dijk, Davis, Matip, you've got the personnel potentially next season when everybody's fit to try that. Robbo and Trent are wing backs crying out to happen, aren't they? That's what they do. They get forward and they provide you with so much out wide. So kind of supports that theory. And Klopp did say that the interesting thing about Ben Davies is he's been playing in a 3. So do we read something into that or don't we? If we do, I'm excited to see it happen because Van Dijk in the middle of a Davis and a Gomez, we'll be talking to them all the time. When it breaks down, Fabinho could drop in and make it a 4 very, very quickly. It's exciting, but we do need to change our system. We need to evolve. We haven't done that, and teams are finding out a way to nullify it. We have to be flat out to teams at the moment.
Are you worried about? Obviously, you've already touched base that you're not happy with the way Liverpool have been playing, but you've lost to, the bottom teams. I'm talking about lower league teams as well, haven't you? In terms of you lose to Brighton. You did lose to Brighton, didn't you? You lost to Brighton. Fulham you drew. Sheffield United. Did they get one over you as well?
We drew. We lost. We drew West Brom as well. So these games we would be winning.
It goes back to what you said about the low block, doesn't it? Really, finding out how to counter against that. The other thing as well, what I've noticed a lot. I mean, do you feel like you're very reliable on Mo Salah this season for goals? I'm talking about goal contributions to your team. I mean, it seems like Mane is dipped off from what he was last season for whatever reasons. Firmino, we know, hasn't contributed to many goals in the last 2 seasons as well. Jota. I think Jota was a great signing for you. It's a shame he got injured for you, really, because he was the one that was stepping up next to him. Other than Mo Salah, do you worry about the goals that are actually being created for you guys in games?
I think if you put Mo Salah in anybody's team, he becomes a focal point if he plays. Numbers are absolutely ridiculous, aren't they? When he leaves Liverpool at some point in the future, as all players do, when we have conversations about the best goal scorers in the Premier League, he has to be included in that conversation. His numbers suggest that, and that's not really a question as to whether he would have that conversation. It's difficult. Mane's trying too hard. Mane knows he's a little bit out of form, and he's perhaps trying too hard. And when you try too hard, you force things, and you don't look fluid, you don't look natural. And he's had a bit of a couple of months. But the main thing is, look at the standard those 3 up front have been playing at for the last 3 years. It goes back to what I said before. They've been absolutely flying, and unfortunately, Dick came at the same time for all of them. I think what Jota did was he kept Bobby on his toes. As soon as Jota got injured, Bobby got the cigar out, and it's easy then, isn't it? Because there's no real competition. Salah looks sharp this season. He really does, and that's why he's leading goal scorer. He still misses chances that he should be taking, but he also scores goals that there's no right to score. A goal against Chelsea a couple of seasons ago, he took the ball. He's got no right to try that. But then he misses one against Newcastle, which I would score and you would score. So it's gone from the sublime to the ridiculous really, really quickly with Salah. Mane's form will come back. Mane last season was for me, our best player. A lot of Liverpool fans felt
He
the
was
same.
mine. I put him
And
down as well.
absolute
Yeah.
nightmare to play against because he's strong and quick. He can go off either foot, and he always wants to get at people. I'm not worried about him. I think Bobby's form is more of a worry than Mane's, and that's where we really felt. My friend said to me the other day, all due respect to Virgil van Dijk, could you make an argument for Jota's injury being the most pivotal to our season in terms of what we don't have in terms of flexibility? Do you know what? A good point. I think you might be right. We really, really miss Jota, but the good news is he's a week or so away from being in contention again. So, yeah, Mo's always going to be our focal point because his numbers are ridiculous. He's your go-to man, same as Ronaldo in whatever team he's been in.
Do you think you lose one of the two of them at the end of the season? Because there's talks about Mane and Salah looking at like a Real Madrid, or for example. And if you do you think Liverpool will invest and actually buy like an Mbappe or someone of that? Haaland?
Good question. So we spoke about this recently. The money you pay for Mbappe, would you buy Haaland and Sancho together, or would you buy Mbappe? You could argue that Haaland and Sancho give you more options.
Yeah.
Haaland is ridiculous. Everything he touches seems to end up in the back of the net. It's ridiculous to watch. I think of the two, Salah is more likely to leave than Mane. Not because he wants to go and win other things, because he's got a chance to win things at Liverpool. Both Salah and Mane are massively ambassadorial in their own countries. They invest a lot of money in hospitals, education, schools. I know Mo Salah's looking for a contract extension, hence the interview where he sort of suggested Spain has some appeal to him.
Yeah.
If he goes and gets 400 grand a week at Real Madrid, which is quite feasible given the money they gave Gareth Bale, imagine what he could do in his homeland with that kind of money. He's never going to get that at Liverpool.
No.
So there's a very real possibility that at some point in his career he's going to say, right, I won the Champions League, I won the Premier League, now I'll go and do something where I can do things for other people because I've been quite fortunate. I've won those things. And that's the type of man he is. He has lots of humility, shall we say. If we sell him, then they will reinvest that money. And Mbappe would be ridiculously good signing, but it's more of a romantic signing because we would need Nike to increase his image rights to cover the difference in the salaries because we're never going to pay 400 grand a week for players.
That's
not
true.
going to happen. So you need Nike to up the ante in terms of his image rights. And do you know what? That's possible because he's a Nike-sponsored athlete. And Liverpool sell far more shirts than PSG ever will. So there's an argument there to say that's commercially makes sense to do that. Right now, we need a number 9 more than we need a wide man. So if it was picking between the two sets of combinations, I'd rather spend 140, 150 million you get for Salah on, say, Haaland and one other, rather than just going for Mbappe.
I think you're not the only team in the Premier League that probably needs an out-and-out striker. I know we bought Timo Werner, but for me, he's more of a second striker. There was obviously talks about Timo Werner going to Liverpool. It was actually his destination originally. Was what the media was saying, where he wanted to end up. Was you a little bit annoyed at that Timo Werner? I mean, obviously people were having a little bit of a dig at him at the moment because of him being a bit out of form. For me, I don't think Chelsea play to his strengths at the moment, to be honest, and I think that's part of the reason why he's not getting as many goals, and hopefully we can suss that out. But do you think Timo Werner would have been good for Liverpool?
The way we play, we would have utilised his directness and his pace. I completely agree with you when you say Chelsea not getting the best out of him. You could argue that all of the signings that Chelsea made, your front four should have been Werner, Ziyech, Pulisic and Havertz. That's a mouth-watering prospect if you get it right. But back to the Liverpool situation, I wasn't sorry that Werner didn't join. The word is that he sort of demanded more game time than we were going to give him, and he wanted silly money, silly wages. 3 good seasons at Leipzig or 2.5 good seasons at Leipzig doesn't mean you should come to a football club and start demanding to play over the likes of Mane and Salah. They've proven they are what they are. Chelsea was a different model because you needed players. You needed a player of that ilk. And I agree, you don't play to his strengths. Am I sorry we didn't get him? Not really. Right now, if you said to me, would you rather have Werner or Jota? I'd take Jota.
Yeah.
Werner's still got a lot to prove, and I'm sure he'll come good.
Yeah.
But at the moment, given where we are right now, I'm not sorry he didn't sign for Liverpool Football Club, and I think there's quite a few fans who agree with me on that front.
Yeah, I hear you. I just hope we can get the best out. He is a talented. He is very good. His numbers don't lie. Do you know what I mean? It's just I feel like we maybe we need a bit of time gelling. I think having Tuchel come in such a short space of time, you can see that we've got a style of football and we've got a bit of an identity which we never had under Lampard. So we'll see how that goes from our side. But Glazers Out's just said, Steve, do you think Liverpool could do with a number 10 like a Grealish or a Madison, which Klopp could use with another
I would
dimension?
love Jack Grealish. I would love Jack Grealish to come to Liverpool and move him out from out wide into the centre, because he's see the size of the legs on the guy. You can't knock him off the ball.
He's a beast, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's direct, and he goes at people, and he's really, really self-confident. Some fans are saying, "Well, what price for a Coutinho about now?" But we carried Coutinho lots of games because physically he wasn't strong enough, and players used to run off him. Grealish gives you a little bit more going backwards because he's English and he's been brought up to play that way, and that's what we do. I would love I'd take Grealish over Maddison. I still think Maddison's sometimes a little bit of a show pony, more sort of wanting to do flicks and tricks rather than. I think Grealish gives you a bit more defensively. Whoever gets Grealish, and somebody will, is going to get a top class player for the next 7 or 8 years. That has the ability to rip people to shreds. I would have loved to see him come to Liverpool, but I don't think it'll happen.
Yeah, I agree. I think Grealish should walk into any top 6 team, to be honest. In many ways, to be fair, I think I think Man United would need him. I think he'd be good at Liverpool. I even think he'd go into a Man City team and look good next to a De Bruyne. Can you imagine them two in the middle together? That'd be dangerous, wouldn't it? You know, so he is definitely worth his money. You know, he's the thing with Grealish is he's improved every year. He gets better and better and better. So for me, wherever I don't see him being at Aston Villa very long, to be honest. I do think someone's going to come in for him big and get him, and we'll see. Maybe it will be a Liverpool or a Man United or a Chelsea. But it says you want Mbappe, pay the price, and it's a deal. When Mbappe will turn into Maguire, enjoy. Just someone being a bit funny on that one. Steve, who is your next Liverpool manager after Klopp? Good question. If Klopp leaves, who would you like to come in?
That is a good question. So the romance and sentiment all Liverpool fans says obviously looks north of the border at Steven Gerrard and what he's doing at Rangers. But let's be clear about this. Gerrard needs to come south of the border and manage a Premier League club and do good things at a Premier League club before he can even be considered as a Liverpool manager. Potentially, it's another Lampard scenario waiting to happen where you bring in a player that every fan in the world has loved, and then they damage that relationship by not being ready for that job. And that's all it is with Frank Lampard. He wasn't ready for the job.
No.
Linders is an obvious choice. There was the assistant manager because his link and his relationship with the players is really strong. And how Liverpool used to do things was in continuity context, where we've always recruited from within. Alternatively, Julian Nagelsmann is a name that comes up quite frequently around big clubs at Liverpool. And the way that Leipzig play isn't too dissimilar to what Klopp's heavy metal football is. So I think it's between Nagelsmann and Linders. If Klopp was to suddenly decide he'd had enough, for instance, God forbid, I think those are the names that are in the running. Right now, Gerrard wouldn't even feature in the conversation. So more longer term, it would be nice. But he's got a lot to prove. He's doing well in Scotland, but you and I could win the league in Scotland. So let's not get it twisted. It's not too difficult to do that up there, and Celtic are in free fall, aren't they? So
if I was Steven Gerrard, I would look at the Lampard situation and I'd be very careful where I'd go next, because Frank Lampard will become a very good manager in my eyes. He just didn't. He took the Chelsea job, which is probably what I think one of the hardest jobs in the league to take, and manage a squad and players with the amount of ability that we invested in. And he'd never ever had that control before. He was used to going. Before that, it was Derby County. He done okay with them, and then it was like such a massive, big step, and he kind of shot himself in the foot, I believe, with it. And I do think he will come good. So for Liverpool fans, because I've heard it before, them saying, "Oh, Steven Gerrard, get him from Rangers. Look how well he's doing over there." You have to be careful, And why not in the future? Give him a good 4 to 5 years to go and learn his trade and make mistakes and understand and become this more completed manager. Moving on, and rather just rush someone in like Chelsea did, who was a legend at the club, and he's still a legend. Let me say that now. Frank Lampard is still a legend of our club, even with what's happened. and then tarnish he's managed not tarnish, but just affect his ability to maybe manage in certain places elsewhere because of it, if that makes sense. So I don't know. I think it's one of them ones where we just have to. I think people just need to step carefully with it. But Klopp, I don't see Klopp going anywhere anytime soon, to be honest. But
2024 is his end of his contract. They're just touching on the Lampard thing.
Yeah,
you're right. Chelsea's the hardest job you could have taken. Chelsea's the only job where you're guaranteed to be sacked. Look at the managers you've sacked for winning trophies. You wake up every morning with a ridiculous amount of pressure on you. What he probably needed to do was bring an established, experienced coach into his backroom staff, because when a bit out of shape, Jody Morris is probably not the guy to turn to get the answers. So someone like when Dalglish took over as player manager for Liverpool, Bob Paisley came in and sat behind him just to give him some advice and some thoughts and some little bit of help. Someone like a Hiddink or Avram Grant with the experience of Chelsea might have been able to help Lampard deal with the problems he faced, because I don't think he could turn to his coaching staff and solve those problems. And you're right, he'll be back. I like Frank Lampard. He'll be back. He needs to pick his next job very carefully, to be fair.
I agree. Though it looks like the Liverpool team lineups have been announced, because apparently Fab and Hendo are starting centre backs against Man City. I want to touch on to that quickly with yourself, and I was going to ask you, who would you line up to play Man City today, and in what formation? What would be your team to start?
I would have gone with obviously Alisson in goal. The fullbacks would have picked themselves, Trent and Robbo. I probably would have gone with Kabak and Fabinho in central defence. I would have gone with Ronaldo, Henderson, and maybe Curtis Jones, with the front three being the front three that we pick every week. And the reason why I would leave Thiago out is because Jones is a box-to-box player with more energy.
Yeah.
And we're going to need that energy to sort of fight off the challenges that Man City bring. If we were going to play further up the pitch, which you won't do with those two playing at centre-back, then Thiago comes back into the side. But I just think you need to be careful. I think Thiago will probably prove me wrong and open up Man City all over the place today. But physically, it's going to be a battle today. As I said before, when you're playing centre-backs, they're the centre midfielders, and then you're playing Thiago in a sixth role, that becomes difficult because you're not getting the protection from behind that you need. It's difficult. I would have put a centre back in there and strengthened the midfield, and then maybe if you strengthen the midfield, maybe you do make a case to play. It's really difficult. We spoke before. I don't know how you get the best out of Thiago. Play him as an 8. Don't give him any defensive responsibility. Might have given Manchester City something to think about. It's really, really difficult to know what to do with him to get the best out of him. And that's the thing. Certainly good enough. I think we need to play in a way that gets the best out of him. I'm not suggesting he's not good enough to play. He just needs a system that works so we can use his skill set.
Yeah, I hear you. Volishan says Gini, Thiago and Jones in midfield tonight as well. Obviously, with Hendo and Fabinho in that position, that doesn't really surprise you, does it? Really?
No, and that's probably as strong as you're going to get. If you played Kabak, you could have put Henderson in there, and then you'd have a look at Thiago or Jones being the one that doesn't fit. But given who he's gone with in centre half, and they're very organised, and everyone in front of them will be told what to do all of the time. Henderson's a very good talker. And he'll help Trent, because Trent's positional play will come under scrutiny again today. So you can see why he's done it. Maybe the two new signings aren't ready. It's a hell of a baptism of fire to throw you in there, isn't it?
Yeah.
So let's hope that those midfield three today can get to grips with, because Bernardo Silva's come back into form.
Yeah.
And he's a good player. Much as I don't like the things that he does off the pitch and his behaviour at times, he's a quality footballer, and that midfield three will need to be combative. And Jones is in there, and Jones is an engine, and that's what we're going to need today.
I agree. What's your views on result today? Who do you think will get it? Who do you think will win today? What's your match result?
We've got to win, so we've got to start on the front foot. We've got to play with lots of pace, lots of tempo. Got to ask questions of City from early doors. That leaves us susceptible to the counter. I think both teams will score, and maybe both teams will score more than once. Hart said 3-2 Liverpool, which would, from a stress point of view, ruin me today. But Manchester City are set up to cause us problems today. So it'll be close, and I do think both teams will score, possibly score more than once.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm just going to quickly try and find the four. I was trying to find it on my computer so I could share screen, but I couldn't find it. So I'm just going to quickly find it on my phone and just quickly see the lineups. I mean, yeah, it is. It's Alisson in goal, Fabinho, Robbo, Trent, and Henderson at the back. Wijnaldum, Curtis Jones, Thiago, and then the usual three up front: Salah, Mane, and Firmino. Who are lined up against Man City. With Man City, let's have a look. I know they ain't got no KDB, have they? So
No.
Edison's in goal, Ruben Diaz, John Stones, Cancelo, Zinchenko, Rodrigo, Gundogan, who's been on fire this season, to be fair, Bernardo Silva, Phil Foden, Mahrez, and Sterling. Looking at that, I think you would be quite confident looking at that. I mean, the only thing I would say is Man City are defending. They're defending very well this season. That's weird to say about Man City, isn't it? Because usually they leak goals, but ever since they've brought this Diaz in, he's been a revelation there, isn't he?
Yeah, I think you've got to look at it. If Liverpool win today, for instance, Manchester City have got the same amount of points at the end of today as they had last season. Yeah. So I think the story this season is how much Liverpool have dropped away, as opposed to suddenly Manchester City not this rip-roaring team that's tearing everybody to shreds. Yes, as you pointed out, they've won, 13 games in a row. Yeah. So they are in form, but they're not the team that the press are building them up to be. They've been not far off where they were this time last season in terms of points. Yeah. You would think they'd finish the season stronger, so they'll be that much closer to the prize at the end of the day. I think today it'd be really interesting to see Salah versus Zinchenko, because I think Zinchenko is probably their weak link and a little bit of a liability at times. And if I was Liverpool, I'd be focusing on that. And also, I'd have a go at John Stones again. I'd have Sadio having a go at John Stones again, because yes, he's improved, form has improved, but he's still a little bit rash at times. That doesn't leave you just because you've won a whole host of games. That's in his DNA to be a little bit hit and miss at times. So we've just got to go at them. We've got to play on the front foot. Klopp said at the start of the season, we're not going to defend our league, we're going to attack it. And that's what we need to do today. That phrase, that saying, is absolutely spot on for today. We don't go out there and force the game, force the pace, force the tempo, impress ourselves in the game, then we won't get a result.
I hear you. I feel it's always a tough one to predict, because I know Man City have gotten not a great record against you guys at Anfield. They struggled to win even when they had their prime Aguero's, De Bruyne's. So I've got a feeling it's going to be a draw. I think it's going to be a draw. I think it might be a 1-1 or a 2-2. I think there will be goals in it. I think both teams will go for it. If I had to choose someone to win out the two, looking at that lineup, I'd probably go with Liverpool, looking at the way you're lined up at the moment. But then you say that Man City have been playing all season without a striker and convincingly been winning 3-4-0 against teams. So, they've got people that score all across the pitch, haven't they? So it will be a good game. It will definitely be a good game. But people, nearly 45 minutes in here. We appreciate all your support on here. It's been a great, great show. Steve, where can people find you on Twitter, mate? Where can people find you?
So just there at Steve Plunk. It's not just Liverpool fans, guys. I talk to anyone about any team, any football team. I'm a football fan. Yes, I'm a Liverpool fan, but I'm a football fan. And if you haven't already subscribed and liked this show, jump on, subscribe, like. This is good format. I've really enjoyed myself. Pleasure to be on as a first guest and give these guys a look up. I'll be retweeting these shows going forward, so I'm very grateful for the opportunity to talk to you today. So, been good.
It certainly won't be the last, Steve. We actually are looking to, because we're growing the number of shows that we're doing on here anyway. Different type of shows, different style shows, maybe that ain't too much out there in terms of the YouTube game. But it'd be good to get more of your thoughts in the long run. Get you on here more in terms of a Liverpool perspective. It's something that we're looking to actually do. So definitely be talking to you about that. But no, again, we appreciate you coming on. Thank you for being our first guest on our first guest show as well. People, you can find me, Ads and Sophia in the description below. Our links to our Twitters are there. We've also got a Discord group as well. So if you guys want to continue chatting after this, jump on there and chat away. But yeah, appreciate it. I'll see you again soon. Obviously Chelsea are playing tonight at 7:15. I would probably do a player rating show straight after, but I've got Football Terrace, which shout out to the Football Terrace. I've got to commit to that, so I'll be on there first, and then I will probably be a bit too late, to be honest. It'll be getting 10, 11 o'clock and I'll be tired because I've got work tomorrow. So guys, what I'm going to do with the player rating show is we're going to move that to tomorrow, probably around 2 o'clock. So look out for that. We'll allow you to have your say. We're allowing fans to come in and, you know, talk about the result as well. And yeah, let's hope we can get a result today. And hopefully these lot can, they can draw, because it keeps it, you know, keeps everyone still quite narrow. We just need to keep winning, and we need people around us to drop and draw points and that. So yeah, appreciate it, Steve. We'll talk to you again soon. And yeah, peace, people. See you again soon. Thank you.
Okay, cheers.
It's like it's playtime and it's free time. In the dance, they have to take a glance. We stepping on